Well, while it does appear that the rains appear to be receding, maybe not in all parts, because we do know that as the rains start to go away, somehow they seem to get heavier. And as a result of that, some states are now trying to be proactive, warning their residents who live close to certain rivers to relocate to higher ground. One of those states is Ogun State, whose Commissioner for Information, Mr. Ola Oresonya, has tried to now mobilize the citizens or the residents living close to certain rivers, particularly the Ogun, Ilo, Iju, Owa, and Yemole rivers, to relocate to higher grounds. He joins us on Sunrise Daily this morning to talk about the plans of the Ogun State government regarding this. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning, Mr. Oresonya, for joining us on Sunrise Daily. How have residents received this warning, this latest warning that you have now issued from your office?
Well, I believe the residents are very receptive of this. We've been doing this now in the last 6 years, and it has assisted us a lot in reducing or almost eliminating fatality when it comes to impact of flood. And I think, yeah, we've said this in the past, we mentioned this in the past. Initially, they're very cynical, but right now they believe, look, when we mention all these things, there's a lot of credibility in it. And it's better to listen to this warning and not to be resentive of it.
Well, we have, interestingly, as you've said, this is something that is now happening on a yearly basis. It appears, I do remember that I think once or twice we've had to ask you if there was going to be a long-term solution, or this will continue to be the pattern whereby people will have to relocate at certain times of the year and then they can come back in the dry season. Do you see any long-term solutions other than this temporary relocation that you have now applied?
Well, the long-term solution, it's either way. Either the resident will have to completely evacuate the riverbanks or the wetlands, or there's going to be either the river itself will have a retaining wall that will demarcate the residential area from the river path. And these are long-term solutions. Building dikes along that, along the Ogun River bank in particular, it's not a one-day affair. You have to go through a lot of procedures, do a lot of mapping and the rest of it. And this is a federal government assignment. So the least we can do right now is to mitigate the impact. The first level of mitigation is that information that we continue to give to our people. Then the second level is the palliatives, which we're doing, opening up more tributaries to reduce the volume, the velocity of the river, and so that we have more tributaries as an entry point into the lagoon for our people, and make sure that we elevate most of the infrastructures within those infrastructure areas. So that's exactly what we do right now. But the most important thing is to make sure that we eliminate any case of fatality or any case of accident by making sure that our people leave the riverbank so that until when permanent solutions are there.
Well, you walked very well when you were, you walked in Loma when you were in Lagos State, and I was privileged to speak with you then when you were with Loma, and right now you are now at a higher position in Ogun State, which is contiguous to Lagos. As Commissioner for Environment, how would you say that the challenges of the environment in Ogun State is different from Lagos, and what are some of the connecting areas which you are now trying to do to see how it can actually help what is happening in Lagos State?
Well, if you look at the socioeconomic situation of the two states, there are two different dynamics, and very exciting. Yes, like Pirali said, I spent a better part of my years working experience in Lagos. Right now in Ogun State, there's a new level of learning. I have to learn new things, and knowing fully well that the scope right now is bigger than just waste. It's all about the environment. So Ogun State has a large number of industries, more wider areas to cover in Ogun State, and the ecology in Ogun State, it's quite very, very sensitive. You have to balance out the the grains with the industrial pollution. So heavy industrial pollution in Ogun State. Then the settlements in Ogun State, they're more sparsely settled than Lagos, that is dense. Lagos is densely populated. Ogun State, there's still more land where people spread out. And yes, the growth in Ogun State is faster than development, but the government is doing a lot of catch-up in that regard. You have to do so many more roads. There are more road connections in Ogun State than in Lagos State, and longer roads and the rest of it. So then Ogun State, when you look at the social psychology, is still more heterogeneous in the hinterland. But for the border towns, yeah, the border towns, yes, these are people with the ideology of Lagos. In fact, when you live in the border towns of Ogun State, you think you're in Lagos. So the expectation in the border towns are very, very high. So we have to do a lot of catch-up in that regard also. So these are the various dynamics, and which I keep learning every day. And even me, I have to do a lot of catch-up in knowing how to respond to the demand in Ogun State, which is quite different from that of Lagos.
You had calls recently to evacuate, or is it to relocate the market around Kara? And, you know, it would seem that the Ogun State government over and over again has tried to relocate that particular market. Do you think you'll be successful this time around?
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. There's a will. I can assure you the will is there. But we're trying to look at the consequences of movements of the market. We just don't want to move them without putting a human face to it. So where we are relocating them at Ogere, we are doing our best to get the place ready so that we'll not just move them and push them away. They've been there for quite a while, so we have to put a bit of a human face to the relocation. So, and I think that's exactly what we're doing right now. And very soon you will start seeing the movement. It's not for lack of will. The will is there, but because we have the will, because we are government, we have all the powers, does not mean we just overlook the interests of our people. After all, we are having we derive authority from the social contract we sign with the people. So it's all about bringing them in our decision taking. That's it.
Will there be any attempt to go around the places where you have told people to evacuate from, as the rains are, you know, going to be heavier, especially as they go? Are you going to be going around those places to be sure that people have heard the relocation notice and are actually taking heed?
Well, the relocation is an advice. It's not compelling. It's good advice. We cannot drag anybody from their dwellings, their natural dwellings, and say, look, I'm dragging you out. No. But we are duty bound to give them advice. It's a kind of safety advice. But however, we are on standby in case they've not listened and they are caught up with the disaster that may come. We're there to still rescue them. Whether they listen or not, we're duty bound to rescue them. We have camps where we can take them and rescue them, especially the vulnerable ones, the physically challenged, the elderly ones, the children. We are duty bound to rescue those ones in case it happens. And for others, yes, you can elevate. We will give you advice, which is what we are supposed to do. You can elevate your situation. Maybe if you have 2 levels of building, move to the upper level and be sure that if you look at the flood alert, we said that for us in Ogun State, the peculiarities with us is that we have a river that traverses the state, which is the Ogun River, and this river empties itself into the lagoon, and there's going to be the tidal fluctuation. We can predict the tidal fluctuation very well to the middle of October. Around the middle of October, they're going to have a rise in the sea level, and definitely the inflow from the Ogun River will be retarded, and this will reticulate around the floodplain. And people who are already living there, who shouldn't be there on the first instance anyway, but we met this problem, we inherited this problem, we have to manage this problem and make sure that we don't leave our people to the mistake of the past. So we make sure that we cannot drag them, but we'll make sure we have our people, the State Emergency Management Agency, and the Flood Alert Task Force. We move around, we know the area, we've done the mapping, we know our vulnerable positions, and we have our people on standby to respond. And we have telephone numbers that we have given to the CDA, the community associations, to call those numbers, and you can be sure we are going to respond.
Just to be sure, is this flooding that is expected, is it as a result of expected rainfall or as a result of the release of water from the Ogun Dam?
It's a combination of three factors. If you look at the press, it's a combination of three factors. The first one is the flow. If you look at the Federal Ministry of Environment, the flood alert given by NEMAT, by all of them, Ogun State is not even included on that vulnerable state. I wouldn't know why they're not, because Ogun State emptied it to the lagoon, and we received the flood coming from the north. So the flood alert given for most of the states along the River Niger and the boundaries and the River Benue areas. Those are the states that actually have to have the major overflow. Then don't forget that most of this flow coming from the northern part of the country, they're going to pass through Ogun State, pass through the dam, the Ogun Dam, and they're going to empty into the lagoon through those dams. So Ogun Dam has to be open, because they're going to receive the flood coming from the northern part of the country. So by the time we get the ETA, the expected time of arrival of this flood, which we are working with the Ogun River Basin Development Authority, on daily basis, I get this flow is coming, and I get a report from the Nigerian Hydrological Department also. So our hydrological basin here, we're going to receive that flood coming from the northern part of the country towards the end of September. We're going to receive that flood. So by the time the flood gets here, the water level at the dam will be very high. The dam must be opened. Okay, daily now we release about 1.7 million gallons on daily basis. Towards that period, they're going to release almost 7 million gallons on daily basis at the dam. Now, coupled with the fact that the rainfall around that time will be going to above 200 mm of rainfall, which is high rainfall in itself. Now, with the heavy water and the dam itself, and around that time or so, all right, the middle of October, that is when you're going to have the Tiber, the sea level will rise by an excess of about 1.5 meters in excess of what we have right now. So they're going to be locked. There are going to be three factors that will combine at that time. And nature, this is all nature at work. It is not about what we do or what we don't do. It's nature at work. And where nature is supposed to actually give itself a relief, those are the floodplains, because the water has to now be detained around a certain plane before nature will allow the regression. Now, people have built up those plains because in the dry season, it looks so dry. We built up those plains, and there are going to be trouble around that area. So what do? We have to advise our people, leave that area, elevate yourself, or just leave for about 10 days. The water will recede itself, and you can go back to your life if you still want to live in that community.
Well, Mr. Oresanya, we sincerely hope that this particular season will not bring any fatalities and it will go smoothly as you have planned. We have to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. We've been speaking with Mr. Ola Oresanya, who is the Commissioner for Environment in Ogun State. Thank you once more.
Thank you, Mope, and thank you, everyone.